Have you ever felt like you're playing a game you can't win? You work hard, you save, you follow the rules, but financial security always seems just out of reach. What if I told you that's not an accident? What if the system is designed that way? Governments promise us freedom, stability, and prosperity. But if you look closely at history, you'll see the same old tricks being used over and over again to transfer wealth from the many to the few. These aren't new tactics. They're ancient strategies, updated for the modern world. Let's pull back the curtain and expose the playbook. It all started thousands of years ago with the oldest trick in the book: inflation. Back in ancient Rome, when the empire overspent on wars and grand projects, emperors started mixing cheaper metals like copper into their silver coins. The coins looked the same, but their real value plummeted. This secretly taxed every Roman citizen, eroding the value of their savings. Sound familiar? Today, it's not about mixing metals. It's about central banks printing trillions of dollars out of thin air. It's a hidden tax that silently eats away at your purchasing power every single day. As we move into the medieval era, the tricks got more direct. Kings and monarchs, desperate for cash, would demand patriotic loans from wealthy merchants. They'd frame it as a duty to the crown, a necessary sacrifice for the nation. But these loans were often never repaid. It was coercion disguised as patriotism, a straightforward way to seize wealth while maintaining a veneer of legitimacy. The state got richer at the people's expense. Then came a major innovation in the 17th century: public debt. The creation of the Bank of England in 1694 institutionalized this. It turned the government's need for money into an investment opportunity for the rich. Wealthy individuals would lend money to the government by buying bonds and, in return, receive a steady, secure stream of interest. And who paid that interest? The general public, through taxes. It was a genius system for upward wealth transfer, where the poor and middle class funded the passive income of the elite. This brings us to one of the most powerful tools used today: deficit spending. We're told that massive government borrowing is necessary to fund programs for the people: healthcare, infrastructure, social safety nets. And while some of that is true, a huge portion of this debt-funded spending goes directly to well-connected corporations, the defense industry, and financial institutions. The public gets the bill, either through higher taxes down the line or, more insidiously, through the inflation that devalues their money. And what happens when this debt-fueled system inevitably hits a crisis? That's when we see the ultimate magic trick: the bailout. In 2008, the financial system was on the verge of collapse because of reckless behavior by the big banks. But did they pay the price? No. Their losses were socialized, meaning the public, the taxpayers, footed the bill. Meanwhile, the profits they made in the boom years were privatized, safely tucked away in their accounts. The slogan was "too big to fail," but it was really just a bailout for the very people who caused the problem, all under the guise of saving the economy. Now, let's talk about your future. You're probably counting on a pension or Social Security, right? Governments promise retirement security, taking a portion of your income throughout your working life. But here's the uncomfortable truth: that money isn't being put into a lockbox with your name on it. It's being spent immediately to pay for current government expenses and promises made to today's retirees. Your contributions are replaced with an IOU, a promise that future generations will pay for your retirement. It's a system that works only as long as there are more young workers paying in than retirees taking out. Demographics are about to break that promise. After the 2008 crisis, central banks unleashed another weapon: quantitative easing, or QE. It sounds complex, but it's just a fancy term for creating massive amounts of new money to buy government bonds and other assets. The stated goal was to stimulate the economy. But what it really did was pump up the value of financial assets like stocks and real estate. Who owns most of those assets? The wealthy. So, QE created a historic boom for the rich, while ordinary people faced stagnant wages and rising costs for housing, education, and healthcare. Inequality skyrocketed. Governments know that raising direct taxes is unpopular. So, they turn to stealth taxation. Inflation, as we've seen, is the biggest one. Your paycheck might go up by 3%, but if prices rise by 6%, you've actually taken a 3% pay cut in real terms. They also use consumption taxes, fees, and countless hidden levies that chip away at your wealth without you ever seeing a line item on your tax return. It's a way to take more from you while pretending they're not. You might think regulations are there to protect you. Think again. The reality is something called regulatory capture. This is when the industries that are supposed to be regulated end up writing the rules themselves. They use their money and influence to lobby politicians and fill regulatory agencies with their own former executives. From the railroads and oil barons of the past to the big banks, pharmaceutical companies, and tech giants of today, they craft laws that stifle competition and guarantee their own profits. The regulations become a barrier to entry for smaller players, concentrating power and wealth at the top. And we can't forget one of the oldest excuses for seizing wealth: war. From war bonds in the 20th century to the massive deficit spending for modern conflicts, war provides the perfect patriotic cover. Citizens are encouraged to lend money to the government to support the troops and defend the nation. But behind the scenes, it's a massive payday for defense contractors and the banks that finance the debt. The public is left to shoulder the cost for decades to come. So why don't more people see this? Because of the final, and perhaps most effective, trick: complexity is camouflage. The tax code is thousands of pages long. Financial news is filled with jargon like derivatives, credit default swaps, and repo markets. This complexity isn't an accident. It's a feature. It keeps the public confused, overwhelmed, and feeling like they can't possibly understand how it all works. And in that confusion, the manipulation continues, completely unnoticed by the majority. The game hasn't changed. Modern society is running on the same operating system as ancient Rome: control the money, control the debt, and keep the public ignorant. The names and technologies are different, but the principles of wealth transfer remain exactly the same. Most people never question it, because they were never taught how money and power really work. But here's the good news. You don't have to be a pawn in their game. The first step is awareness. Financial education is an act of resistance. When you understand how the system works, how inflation is a tax, how debt is used as a weapon, and who really profits from government policies, you can start to make different choices. You can learn to build and protect your wealth with assets that can't be easily inflated away or confiscated. As the saying goes, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. The question is, can you hear the rhyme before it's too late? Start learning, start questioning, and start building your own path to true financial freedom. Thanks for watching. If this opened your eyes, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. We've got a lot more to uncover. See you next time.